You're listening to The Private Citizen, a civil liberties podcast. This is episode 165 for Sunday, the 24th of March, 2024. I ain't dead. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. My name is Fab. You're listening to The Private Citizen, which is still around. I'm going to get into what happened here in a second. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're listening to the show. Thanks for that. Thanks for still being with me. Let's get this on the road. Let's talk about what has happened. So this episode today will just be about my unplanned hiatus and what's happened to me over the last few months and the plans going forward, because of course there are plans going forward. I still plan to do the show. I'll try to get back on the bike, get back to the show as usual. That will take some doing, but we'll see. I also want to address some feedback I've gotten from some of the listeners, from some of you people. That's very important to me. So, that's what we'll do today. I'll try to get back into regular topics in the coming week, if everything goes according to plan. Also, if everything goes according to plan, you will be able to see this episode on YouTube. I'm recording this. I'm not streaming this. I'm going to get into later why that is, but I'm trying a new setup here. I got a camera for Christmas, a mirrorless. I had DSLRs before, but a mirrorless Nikon ZFC, and I'm actually using that to film my recording. In case, for the people who like a video show, I'm actually, if everything goes according to plan, I'm actually going to mix in the final podcast audio, because I'm really not cutting that, but it should be better quality. It should be better mastered. So in case you like to watch video episodes, you also get the audio that people that are just listening to this on the normal podcast feed get. And that, of course, will be on my YouTube channel as usual. But you can go to privatecitizen.press, the website for this show, for all the show notes and all the links for all of that. So, without further ado, let's get into what has happened. Yeah, so I was, I did the last show. I did like the normal end of the year episode as usual there, and I was ready. We were going on holiday, and I was ready to just have a relaxing holiday in Sweden, and then come back and and start the show refreshed. Get back into everything, and that didn't work out, as you can tell, for several reasons. A lot of shit has happened to me over the last few months, and that has just added up to the normal. I've just been working as I'm a freelance journalist. I've been doing stuff. I'm actually been writing stories. I've been traveling. I've also been hosting events. So I do that sometimes to make some money, and it's just been print deadlines and story deadlines, and it's been just very busy. But on top of that, our car broke down while we were in Sweden. It broke down on the way, so we spent a lovely week in Dalarna, which is in the middle of nowhere in Sweden. It was amazing. It was like minus 18 degrees in the day. It was like really cold. There was a lot of snow. It was like we were on a lake, on a frozen lake. It was perfect Christmas holiday, actually. Beautiful white Christmas, very short days. We slept a lot. I didn't take any computer or anything. I just took my new camera. I tried out my new camera, which took some lovely pictures. But we had it was very cool. But on the way there, my car broke down. The camper van I used, my T4, broke down, and we basically spent a night in a hotel that we hadn't planned. But that was okay. It was just like it was okay. They fixed up the car in the morning, and then we were back on the road. We had some so the second trip of the travel. So we planned to do the trip. So we went from Düsseldorf to Hamburg, and then we planned to have we went to Denmark of all the bridges, and then planned to have a stop in Sweden, and then reach our destination in Dalarna. And we actually just that stop was just a bit earlier, so I just had to drive longer for the second day of driving in Sweden, which actually that was okay. That worked out quite nice. But they kind of so they didn't really. So what happened is there is a I should have probably looked this up before I recorded the show. So there's a was it that belt? Actually, I'm gonna Google this quickly. In German, it's called a Keilrippenriemen. See what that's called in English. A V-belt. So you know how like cars have this belt that drives the alternator. It like drives the alternator, and it does some other stuff. And it does some like there's like this timing belt in the engine that's really important. When that breaks, everything goes to hell. And then there's this belt, which in my in most cars, including in mine, also drives the water pump. So if that fails, so you're losing, you have like electricity problems, and then if you don't notice it, your motor will overheat because the cooling doesn't work. And that belt, there's a very, on the T4, it's like lots of these like little round, things that it goes around. It goes like around in a somewhat complicated pattern, and goes over these I don't know what they're called. The little rolls. Sorry, I didn't prepare this. I should probably have notes for this. So there's like these little things that it goes around, that it's been transported by. And it's like a somewhat complicated pattern. And there's a very specific error, which people who don't know the T4, when they do this the first time, or they don't know what they're doing, you can put it on the wrong way. And then the belt is too loose. So it will break eventually. So it slipped off. So that's what happened on the way out. It slipped off, which is weird because we went like 30,000 kilometers with like my old service shop installed this wrong, apparently. And we went like 30,000 kilometers with this over the last year. Like we went over the Alps in the summer without issues. But in Sweden, it slipped off. And they kind of, it was like between, like when we were going there, it was like, 2 days before Christmas, and they really couldn't, like at the place where we were, like in the middle of nowhere, just like on a Swedish highway, they couldn't, they didn't have a spare part, so they just put it back on and said, yeah, you got to drive carefully. And they also found some other, the funny thing is, we were in the middle of nowhere in Sweden, right? And I have this ADAC, like the German Automobile Club coverage, and they got us a tow truck. And the tow truck just got us to the service station, but it was closed because it was already in the evening. So we went to a hotel, and then I rang them up in the morning, and I was like, oh God, I mean, if they don't speak English, as you can tell, I don't know all these words for all the car parts, right? This is, by the way, this is very convoluted. This doesn't explain why I didn't do the podcast, by the way. It's also not an excuse, all right? All of this is not an excuse. The reason I didn't do the podcast is my own fault. This has nothing to do with this. I just want to tell you, maybe you're interested in all the shit that's up to me, So indulge me a little bit. Anyway, so I ring this service day, this garage up, right? and I get greeted by this German guy who talks to me in German, and I was completely like put off. Like I was completely caught on the wrong foot. And then they had a very typical Berlin accent. So it turns out he was from Berlin, and he just moved to Sweden. Just a mechanic moved to Sweden. Anyway, that was very fortunate because he could tell me all these things in German, which helped. So there were other issues with my car. So I have a TDI, which is like a diesel, but it's a turbocharged diesel, and the turbocharger wasn't working correctly. With some other issues with the electronics. And he was just like, we can't really fix it. Just drive carefully. And it might slip off at some point, but maybe we'll get you to Dalarna and back to Germany. So very helpful. Anyway, we got to Dalarna. We had a nice holiday, really nice. And then on the way back, the car broke down again. This time the belt tore. And this time, so this was between Christmas and New Year's, we were stuck in the middle of nowhere, like on the side of a highway, in Sweden, in snow. And I called up the German assistants, and they were like, my automobile club stuff. They were like, I got them in like a minute, and they were like, okay, we're going to tell the Swedish guys. And then the Swedish guys were like really hygge and took their time, and it took them 5 hours. So we were on the side of the highway 5 hours, basically in a blizzard. It was like 3 degrees. It was really cold. Luckily we had like blankets, and I had like furs and everything in the car, so that made it at least we didn't die. Like these snow plows came going past, and they were just like chucking snow on my car. It was just like on the side of the highway, just like 20 centimeters from all the trucks going by, right? And then the car's white. And then we ran out of power, so I couldn't run we have heating that works when the car isn't running, that we ran out. The lights ran out, and I was ringing the ADAC. I was like, again and again, I was like, you need to tell the Swedish guys, right? They need to pick us up. Like, it's getting really cold, and also, my car's in the snowdrift. You won't be able, it's a white car, the lights are out, you won't be able to see the car. Anyway, this guy gets to us like 5 hours later. It's like way late. And then he told us to, Kopparberg. This is where like the cider. It's like a cider brewery there, a famous one. That's where we ended up, and in the middle of nowhere in some hotel. Anyway, there was another nice garage, and they actually fixed my car the next morning. They actually got a spare belt, but we had to take it slow. We were driving slow again. This like took another day, an extra day. So traveling back, I had just lots of issues. Anyway, so now I'm back home, and like there's lots of issues with my car. So I have to get my car fixed, right? And I also have to go get it through MOT anyway. So I went, but I don't have a service place, right? Because the old service place installed this belt wrong. So I don't want to go back to them. So it took me ages. So this gets into why I had issues with the podcast, because like I had to do a lot of research to find a good place where they know these old cars. I eventually found a great one, but then it took time for me to get the car there, to get an appointment. I got an appointment. He figured out all the technical stuff. So he was like, okay, it's like 500 euros, stuff I can fix, but you've got like rusted through stuff in the bodywork in the back, and this won't go through like the TÜV, the German MOT, like this, right? So I was like, okay, can you fix that? He's like, I don't do bodywork. So then he gave me the number of some guy who does bodywork, who he recommends, but that guy didn't want to do it. So I spent a week basically ringing up people, and they were like, no, we're full. There were like some old timer restoration places, like, old car. Like the guy said, you need somebody like this to like really fix this car, like not somebody who's doing a rush job. So they were all full up for the next 8 months. Lots of people didn't want to take it because it's an old car and it's a lot of work. I was like, I'm ready to pay. I know it's expensive. I'm ready to pay for the work. No, we don't really bother with that. Yeah. So it took me ages. Now I found a place. So now I'm actually in the process. I now have an appointment to get all the stuff fixed that the mechanic found. And then I have to drive the car to this is all gonna go over the MOT limit, by the way, which is okay for like a month or two, I guess, but it's not nice. It's not good here in Germany. So I'm gonna have to drive to the bodywork guy and get that fixed so we can actually get it through the technical checks, and that's gonna be thousands of euros, the whole thing. So while I was doing that, I was getting my bike ready to go back, just drive my bike, right? Because I was bringing the car to service places. So I was actually about to head to Hamburg. So this is a Sunday, right? I'm about to head to Hamburg for some work stuff. And also, like, you know, I have a friend in Hamburg. I always spend some time there when I'm in Hamburg, and we do cool shit, and do some like Muay Thai training and kickboxing and shit. Anyway, so she was over here. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just drive my motorcycle also had to go through MOT, and the service place is near where my parents live. So I'm like, I'm gonna drive my motorcycle Sunday morning to my parents, and then I'm gonna come back. Anyway, I was basically borrowing my mother's car. I'm gonna come back with my mother's car, and then I'm gonna drive us to Hamburg because my car was at that time at the service station, at the shop, at the garage, being checked. So I get on my motorcycle. I drive like 40 kilometers to my parents. I drive like carefully. I mean, I'd driven it before this year, but I was like, not that much riding this year, so I'm driving like carefully. I'm going like on the motorway. I'm like 20 kilometers from where my parents are when suddenly the bike loses power, and I'm like, oh, this is not good. It was like raining, and I'm like on the motorway, so I'm like, I was going like 120 maybe. I'm like I'm like decelerating. I'm like, let's see, let's go to the right lane, decelerate. Let's see what's going on. At that moment, it just goes. There's some like white smoke from the engine, and the back wheel completely locks up. I'm doing 110 kilometers. The back wheel completely locks up. I nearly fell off the bike. Like, I was only managing to keep control. I should have pulled the clutch, which would have solved the issue, but I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on. So like the back wheel's locked. I'm like sliding around. I'm just luckily the guy behind me was paying attention and didn't run into me. So I just stopped the bike on the emergency lane on the motorway, and it's like smoking. The engine's like on fire, and I'm like, well, shit. And I see like it's at the front, so I have a Moto Guzzi where the end is like an engine is like basically in a series to the front, and at the front there's a plastic cover over the alternator, and that starts melting and dripping down. Like the plastic starts dripping down, and then there's some metal fragments falling out. I'm like, holy shit. So now I had to call the ADAC again so they can pick me up. That took like 2 hours. I'm standing like in the rain. So I'm getting the bike to my parents' garage because I'm like, I can't drive it to the shop now. It's Sunday. Like, I can't go to the repair shop. And I need to get to Hamburg for work. So I'm getting the broken motorcycle in my parents' garage. I'm like, Mom, can I have your car? Yeah, thanks. Okay, I'm going to Hamburg, right? Then I'm in Hamburg. I'm trying to get an appointment with the shop. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're going to look at it. We're going to fix it. No worries. I'm like, I love this bike. It don't matter what it costs you to fix it. They're like, yeah, we're going to do that. But we can't pick it up right now because our driver has like done something to his hand. Like the guy who picks up the motorcycles with like they have like a van or whatever. I'm like, okay, ring me when you can pick it up. So they don't ring me, right? I keep ringing them every week or so, and they're like, nah, can't do. And that's now a month later. So then I had to get my car in between all these appointments. I get my car and organize a trailer to get my motorcycle to the repair shop. Now it's at the repair shop. They actually looked at it now. And that's also going to be like another 2,000 euros or whatever. So basically, what happened is I've ridden it like 90,000 kilometers, and it's an Italian bike, and they're not made for this shit, I guess. The Moto Guzzis. Anyway, the alternator has like this wheel, right? This turning. It's like a gear, and that had oxidization on it, which I guess when the thing got warm, it expanded and it just locked up. and it like the alternator's fucked. The rest of the engine apparently is okay. They started it up, like they charged the battery and started it up. The only problem is that the oh god, I should have really looked this up. What is it the crankshaft? You know, the shaft that runs through the engine that has all the pistons on it, like the little thing in the bottom. I think it's the crankshaft. That obviously was was subjected to a lot of force and got like really hot. So they measured it. Apparently it's okay. Now the problem is I'm going to fix my bikes. It's going to be very, very expensive. But there's always now the chance that the crankshaft will just break under strain at some point. And then the engine will be fucked. But, you know, gotta live with that. Anyway, so that's all my car and motorcycle troubles. So I had that going on. I had, of course, lots of work deadlines in between. I had some tax shit. So ever since the pandemic, apparently the tax office, at least, I think they were kind of caught up in Hamburg, but I moved to Düsseldorf in the pandemic. And here, they're like way behind. And they were recently working or like basically looking over my taxes that I had filed for, like, I think what was it, 21 and 22, like 21, 22. I'm actually doing 23 now, but it was like, it's like way late, and then they needed some stuff, so I had to like take weeks to fucking sort receipts and shit that they wanted, and had to go through it with my tax lady. So that was another. So I had basically, within like the last three months, I had like several times I was like, okay, I'm going to do the podcast now. One of them was that, and then they got like the tech stuff, and I'm like, oh god, and then it's gone again. The other time, this is also kind of hilarious. Well, it isn't, but it kind of is. The other time I was all set up. Like I was gonna record, I think on a Friday, and on a Wednesday, I noticed like I've got like the notes all set up, right? But then I noticed that the Windows Defender is going like, oh, you have a problem here. And look at Windows Defender. So I got a Trojan, which was like the first time in 30 years I haven't gotten a Trojan in like, or like any kind of malware in like, it must be almost 30 years. I have, of course, I mean, excluding like all the virtual machines, and I actually have hardware that I use when I do IT security stuff. Obviously, I've gotten malware and Trojan viruses there, often on purpose. And I also have like some expendable VMs that I use on my main machine for shit. Obviously, I use Linux a lot for, especially for IT security stuff. So I really, on my main machine, on my main install, I haven't had anything like this for like 30 years. Yeah, but I got a Trojan, and it was like Windows Defender found it. I blogged about it. It's called like, oh god, I'm gonna have to look this up. I'm unprepared for everything. It's just like, I just wanted to get a show out to get this back on the road, because I was feeling like I need to get back in the habit, right? Because otherwise, if I don't do this, the podcast is going to be dead. So it's called Snayon. I think it's a Russian Trojan. I wrote a little bit about this in a blog post on my blog, fab.industries, if you're interested. It's like, I didn't find much information on it. So basically what happened is Windows Defender found it and deleted it. But when I rebooted the system, it kept coming back, and Windows Defender would find it and delete it again. But I'm like, this is not a tenable situation. There's like an attacker. So either it like rootkitted my system, or it even put stuff in the firmware, in UEFI. I don't know. I was just getting paranoid with all these UEFI firmware bugs and shit, and attacks. So I was like, yeah, that could be it. Also, like, this was like highly suspicious. Like it put like, it was a file that was called Windows Boot Manager exe, and it was in like app data local temp. It was like really weird. So like definitely like, something malicious going on, because this thing is often also detected as like this Trojan comes up when you Google it as like a lot of false positives from people who download other software. But I was pretty sure due to like the folder this was in and the behavior that this was a false positive. Now I have a system in place where I have a backup system where I can just like nuke my PC and then like, put software back on it and push a button and get everything reinstalled. But I didn't want to do that for two reasons. I wanted to reinstall Windows anyway before this. I've been basically pushing that off for a year. My Windows install was getting very sketchy. Like, how it like things break when I tell this to people, and then like I never have these problems. But I think the problem is that I'm a journalist. I like a tech journalist, and I install a lot of shit, like, and uninstall it, which is, that makes it even more remarkable that I haven't gotten any virus before this. But I install a lot of stuff from a lot of sources, and like the more you install on Windows, even if you deinstall it, leaves cruft everywhere in the registry, and Windows just, in my experience, just goes to shit after like 2 or 3 years. So I was well past the time when I wanted to reinstall anyway. So I wouldn't have wanted to like put all the programs back on. I really wanted to like slim down and just reinstall and install everything I needed and nothing else, and make everything much cleaner. And then I thought, well, when you're doing this, you might as well go to Windows 11 now. I haven't had a reason so far, but I think next year Windows 10, like the security updates run out, and I was like, might as well do that. So I did that. I took like 2-3 days to reinstall everything. And I'm fine now that, I flashed the firmware just to be on the safe side, and I haven't seen this virus ever since. So that's pretty good. But like, obviously it took some time to set everything up, but I took the chance to like, I took that opportunity to also clean up everything and got some new stuff going, and, changed my recordings setup here a little bit, and, installed this camera and everything. So we have that. So that's at least a positive thing. So that happened. That was one of the things that happened. And then on top of all of that, I also got in some legal troubles, believe it or not. I'm actually in trouble with the law right now. I don't know. I haven't been charged yet, and I really don't want to talk about it until I'm in the process of discussing all this with a lawyer. Be assured that once everything is settled down and there's been a verdict or whatever's going to happen, and then I will talk about this. I will explain everything. It is nothing bad. I haven't hurt anybody. I haven't endangered anybody. I think I have lots of listeners to the show and not from Germany, who are like from the US, some from Russia and China, and lots from the UK and stuff like that. You guys, you'll laugh once I tell you what this actually, this law that I allegedly broke, which is actually a felony, and I could go to jail for this, is hilarious. You'll laugh. You'll be like, that isn't even illegal here. It's a typical German thing. It's amazing, but it's like, it's typical. On top of that, like, everything's going to hell right now in my life. I don't know what is going on. They just broke into our garage here where I live and stole a bunch of e-bikes. Luckily, they didn't steal my girlfriend's bike or my bike, because they were after e-bikes. And all my other vehicles are in service garages anyway. So now I have my bicycle behind. You can't really see this because I really have a great camera with like awesome depth of field, but like my bicycle is right behind me because I can't put it in the parking garage under the building, because they basically broke into the thing. There's like a fence. It's like a fenced-off area, and they basically dismantled the fence. Like, they didn't cut it; they just dismantled the like connection points just to get to somebody's like €2,000 e-bike. Everything's like, it's so weird. So I'm gonna tell you what that is once I get like everything squared down. You'll laugh. If I have to go to jail, actually I might go to jail voluntarily. I don't know about this yet, but you know I'll write a story about it. You'll hear about it. I'll do a journalistic coverage of it. So don't worry, it's not bad. It's just annoying. It's like on top of everything. It's just like annoying. You'll once I tell you about this at some point, I'll talk about it on the show. You'll laugh your ass off. Anyway, you might hear in my voice that this is actually all, you know, I'm kind of dealing with this quite well because my personal life is amazing. I'm doing really well. I've done lots of sports exercises. I'm like bouldering 4 times a week. On top of that, I've taken up like Muay Thai, kickboxing, which is a lot of fun. I'm doing that once a week now, at least. I do some exercises hitting the bag at home, but I'm doing like actually like technique stuff now, which is it's a lot of fun. So I'm really like I'm as fit as I've never been this fit. I'm like really doing well, like health wise. My personal life is amazing. You know, me and my wife, we're really, really happy. So this is all, you know, taking away time, but you don't have to worry about me. I'm like, you know, I was talking to my wife the other day. I was like, if I was the depressive kind, I would be getting depressive now with all that shit that's happening. But I'm not. I just get angry at people. And then it's really bad when it's something like the car, where basically I can't get angry at anybody because it's nobody's fault, or the motorcycle, right? It just explodes randomly. Like, it's not even Moto Guzzi's fault. It's like, okay, yeah, you know, they should probably build their motorcycles in a way that the alternator doesn't corrode when it gets a little bit wet. But you know, what can you do? It's Italians, you know. I'm just doing my best to be stoic and taking it all. I'm actually doing quite well. It's also one of the reasons, you know, why I haven't done, like, it's not like I don't have time, but like I just didn't have the mental space to do the show. I've actually been spending a lot of time programming. I've been working on Pico 8. I think I've talked about this on the show before. It's like a fantasy console. I've been doing some game development. I found this great guy on YouTube. By some chance, it's a German guy. I think he's even from Bonn, where I used to go to university. Amazing guy. He's doing like these Pico 8 tutorials, programming a shmup, like a shoot 'em up, and I've started that. So I'm actually relatively close to releasing my first video game, or at least the first like alpha version of it, which is coming along really well. So that's happening. So I'm doing well. You don't have to worry about me. The downside is that I've been really neglecting this podcast, and I don't want to do that anymore. While I was on this somewhat unplanned hiatus, the show actually turned 4 years old, and I actually missed another anniversary of the show. And I'm obviously way behind with episodes, but I want to change that. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, what the plans are for the future. But before we do that, I want to get into some listener feedback, because I still have listeners, it turns out. And they also keep, you guys keep writing me, so I want to address some of that. And of course, we have the forum and stuff. So let's get into the listener feedback. And I can't use my my podcasting software. If you're watching the video version of this, which hopefully will be on YouTube, you can see that. You know, you can see my desktop as I record. It's basically how the sausage is made. You can also see my lovely face, which looks amazing, mostly thanks to this Nikon ZFC, which is an amazing camera. I love this camera. I've been very skeptical to mirrorless cameras. My friend Jonathan can attest. But since Nikon's stopped making like lenses for the DSLRs, I was like, I might as well get on this bandwagon at some point. And this camera is lovely. It's like this. It looks like a Nikon camera from the 70s. It looks very old school. People actually look at me when I carry that around, which is like, they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it's very small. Like the good thing about the mirrorless cameras, they're very small. So I've taken that to a lot more. Like I've just been using that a lot more just because it's smaller. So if you go to Fab Industries, my blog fab.industries, I'm gonna put links to this stuff in the show notes at privatecitizen.press. But like I've taken putting up a lot more photos in the photography section. Some of the newer ones taken with this camera. And it's amazing. And one of the reasons I really was looking at it is like I was reading reviews of it, and they were saying it has some amazing low light performance, and it does. Like the low light shots are amazing. So I've been really enjoying this camera. I've been like toting it around in Berlin when I was at a court case reporting on that. And it took some, I take a lot more like snapshots now because this camera is much smaller. But anyway, how did I get to that? Oh yeah, I was talking about how the show is made, and then I got distracted. I want to talk about listener feedback. Let's talk about the listener feedback. So on the forum, Fadi Mansour, who writes in a lot, regular listener, regular feedbacker, like a quarterbacker. He's very active on the forum. Says here he responded to the last episode I published last year, and this is some feedback on that. So I want to address that. Fadi says, at one point you mentioned that you blame the media and how they, quote, they are not performing their function in society, end quote. I really don't share this expectation. For me, it's important to remember that the media are also people with their shortcomings, blind spot, biases, which should all be taken into account when listening to them. It's always on the receiver to try to filter out the good from the bad and to finally make their own point of view based on the available data. I agree with everything Fadi has said there. He's said some more. I just want to address this for now. I agree with everything you've said there, Fadi. I also think so, but I also think that the media has a special function in society. I mean, it's the fourth estate for a reason. Why is it called the fourth estate? What's the third estate? I have to look. It's like the church, isn't like the government. It's like the king. Fourth estate. Where does it say where the other states are? God. Come on, Wikipedia. Actually don't I have like, yeah. Fuck Wikipedia. I've got like this field notes reporter notebook that I use. And that actually explains that on the back, I think. Read that at some point. Wait. Estates, right? The first estate, church and clergy. Second, nobility, ruling class. Third, secular authorities and common people. And the fourth estate, I can't, there's not enough light in here. Which you can't tell on the video because of the low light performance of this amazing camera. A fourth was named when the press was first admitted to the English House of Commons in 1787. A more recent fifth estate has come to describe the alternative press, such as blogs and social media. Yeah, so, right. So the press has a special function in democratic countries, like in a democratic government. Like it really can't function if there is no press that inform, because the government makes the laws, and the executive enforces the laws, and the people are supposed to vote on who makes up the government. But to do that, they have to be informed citizens. That's actually what it says in the German constitution. And I think it is also kind of a term in like political science when you're talking about this. You have to make an informed choice, and you can only make an informed choice if you are informed, and that's traditionally the function of the press. I might actually do an episode on this. I've got so much so many episodes. Yeah, we need to get back to the Twitter files. That's the next episode I'm definitely doing, because I already have show notes for that. But like, there's lots of things we should do. And I was recently, like last week, I was there's like this project. I'm in like the German Journalists Union, and I have this thing where like, you can, if you're a journalist, you can volunteer for this project where you go to a school, and then, you know, teachers can request journalists, and then you go into a classroom and teach kids about journalism. And I was recently in a gymnasium, high school here in Germany, in grade 10, and I was talking to them for an hour about journalism, and apparently it was so good. I haven't been my school experience wasn't that good, and it's been ages since I was in school. I used to work for an ISP and do like tech support in schools, but I haven't been in school ever since. And I was like really surprised. They were like giving me standing ovations at the end. I've never seen anything like this in school. It was amazing. And the teacher was really happy. And actually, I'm going back there. There's holidays right now, but after the holidays, I'm going back because I didn't get through my notes. And they were like, oh, we have so many questions. And I didn't get to questions. So I'm doing this again. But anyway, I've got a lot of notes from that, that, you know, they were aimed at kids. But, you know, I kind of basically treated them like grown-ups. That's what I do with kids. I have no knack to deal with kids any other way, because I don't have children. I'm kind of like, I'm watching Star Trek Voyager at the moment, and I always feel reminded when 7 of 9 talks about kids. That's basically how I feel about kids. They're very inefficient. So I might draw from that. Because this is exactly this topic, right? I was talking a lot about this, how like the press is a special function, and it's basically not doing well in that respect, I feel. Completely agree with Fadi here, that all of the stuff he said is right, but that's mostly also, of course, the press are people, right? But that doesn't mean that if you're a journalist, you shouldn't try to aspire to a higher standard, which is what I'm trying to do. Might be hard to tell, especially when I'm not releasing podcasts, but I try. Anyway, Fadi continues. Another interesting point you raised, about how a scientist like a hacker would look at research. Here again, a small disagreement. I don't believe a hacker is looking only how to break something. I was looking at scientists like, you know, they're trying to break the status quo, right? They're trying to always looking for the cracks and apply the crowbar of scientific enlightenment to, like, you know, explore and find new things. And I was equating that to hackers. But Fadi says, for me, a hacker is someone who tries to understand how something really works, to try to understand it completely, where it works and where its limitations are. And in the end, he would use this to achieve his own purposes by using these things in the way it actually works, not in the way it's supposed to work. She agree with that. That's what a hacker does, but that's also what a scientist does, right? A good scientist, and a successful scientist looks at how the world is, right? They have an idea and a theory, but then if they do an experiment and the outcome is completely different, then they have to immediately shift and go, well, you know, I can't hold on to this shit, like this orthodoxy that is developed in my head and that other people have developed. We need to look at what actually happened here, right? And that's how all great scientific discoveries are made. Once again, explained in a great way in the movie Oppenheimer, when Oppenheimer goes like, you can't possibly split an atom. And then they're like, oh, we just done it in the next room. And he immediately goes like, blam, okay, you can split an atom. What does that mean? Right? So I think I was misunderstood here, probably not only by Fadi, but by many people. When I was talking about a hacker, when I was talking about it, I was talking about like a black hat hacker, right? As a hacker, it's as a person on the street would understand the term hacker. Of course, it originally comes from, like a MIT kind of hacker type, right? What we would now call a white hat or gray hat hacker. So I was talking about black hat hackers. That's why I was saying a hacker's looking how to break something. Black black hat hackers are. Fadi was also talking about white hat and gray hats, or just like a, open source hacker who's just like trying to figure out how like, I don't know, the Windows kernel works because it doesn't have any documentation for it. That was feedback from Fadi. Thanks a lot. Once again, I always relish when you write in. Same goes for Mike, who I haven't heard of in a long time, but Mike came by on the forum. He was on the show before, and I actually want to get him back at some point, but I first need to get into get episodes out here, obviously. But Mike says, I know I rarely get time to provide feedback to the episodes, but it seems that we are both in the same boat in 2023, caught up in other matters. I will endeavor to follow your example for 2024 and be more active as a producer. Please don't follow my example because I fucked up. It was great to see you in April last year when we attended the Amazing Sabaton gig in Copenhagen. Probably the best Sabaton performance that I have seen. That was great. It was a lot of fun. Not only the concert, it was my third or my second of 3 on the tour, but mostly the people. Jonathan and Mike and Leifa, we had a lot of fun. It's great. Also the other Danish people were a lot. I was wearing a German submarine hat, and Jonathan bought me this bandolier with disgusting, it had like shots in it in like little tubes. It was like this bandolier with disgusting shots, and yeah, people got a kick out of that. If you remember, I did give you some producer feedback then, also in the shape of a book, John Sweeney's Killer in the Kremlin, which I have. It's over there. Wait, I got it right here, Mike. I haven't read it, but I also not thrown it away. It is here with the other books I have to read. I don't think you have yet considered it, but I live in hope. As a gesture, I have upgraded my Patreon membership to executive producer. Thanks, Mike. If you would consider making your own subscription to John Sweeney's Patreon to read his articles, an upgraded membership could cover that for whatever time you want. Yeah, I first need to read his book, I think. Don't give me more shit to read. John is an independent journalist who resides in Kiev, and has done since before the outbreak of Russia's SMO. I think they're calling it war now, I've heard. I think the Russian foreign minister, was it the foreign minister, called it a war now? So I think we can also do so. I mean, I've done since the beginning. I have also gifted you a month of paid subscription to another columnist/writer called Sarah Kensior, who writes very poignant pieces about contemporary America. I believe that her writings will be of interest to you as well, and maybe provide a different perspective to consider. I did notice this. I didn't have any time to read any of that. It was on Substack, so I hope I still have access to the stuff I had access to. Maybe I have to resubscribe. Sorry, Mike. I've had a lot going on. As I said, I will try to provide more regular feedback. I look forward to reading your work in 2024. I will endeavor to produce more for you to read. Mike, please write in. I appreciate this very much. And I will read this book at some point. I kind of sabotaged myself. I was like, I need to... Like the programming stuff, the Pico 8 stuff was something like I wanted to do to just, tune out. And I did something else, actually. I started reading again. I didn't finish this the last time I tried, but I started reading Edward Gibbon's The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire again, which is a problem because that's a very long book. So that's kind of sabotaged this reading project for Mike, but it's also a very good book, and it's also very timely. I feel that is disquieting, but I think it is very timely. I might talk about that at some point. I also got an email from Reed. Reed says, I ran across your work searching for entities in Europe looking at financial and political crimes. interesting that you ran across my little podcast. That is cool. Are you still operating your podcast? Yes, I am still operating my podcast. As I mentioned before, I fell off the wagon a little bit. But we should be back in the saddle, I hope. I also had an email from Digital, like in digital, but like with a capital T, Digital. I just casually wanted to know if you are all right, since it has been some time that you published a new episode of your podcast. As explained, seems your about and contact pages, on your about and contact pages, there is some defect because there's an error embedding that's mentioned. Is it possible? That's another thing. Yeah, because there's an error embedding there's like a message. That's like my forum thing, which broke. That was supposed to embed the forum so that people could, figure out where the forum is, which is fab.industries. I don't know why that broke. I need to figure that out, and I will. It's on the to-do list. Digital also says, or Digital, is it possible to transfer money to you, not via Patreon, but via international bank account number IBAN and a bank identifier BIC in order to let you receive the full amount without any middleman taking a cut? It is. I will write to you in person for that. I don't really want to put that on the website. That's a bit of a. It can be. I wouldn't say dangerous, but it can lead to a lot of hassle. I don't think you need the BIC, by the way. The BIC is included in the IBAN. The BIC is what in Germany used to call Bankleitzahl, BLZ. It's now the BIC. It's like the international. It like identifies the bank and branch, and that combined with your account number is the IBAN. So basically the international code for the bank branch, and then they just suck your account number at the end, and that makes up the IBAN. But I will let you know. Also, for everybody else, I'm looking at. I had a lot of feedback about people don't liking Patreon for several reasons, some of which I understand very well. I am also looking into Ko-fi, Kofi. I might set that up as an alternative. I've heard you. I know that this is something people want, and I will endeavor to get that also fixed. And with that, I think that is already plans for the future. So let's go to the last topic for today, which is plans for the future. Right. So I'm going to try yet again to put out an episode a week. Can't promise it. There will be weeks when I have to skip it, but I want to get back into the grind. I want to get that done. And I will give my best to do it. Even though I still have deadlines and shit and I have to travel in the next few weeks, but I will try. I will not do it on Wednesday. That was the original day. I don't know if I can commit to one day. I would try. I would want to try because that makes it easier to plan. But like I tried to plan shit this week, like in the first week, and everything fell apart. Like including I had a podcast. Like I had a week plan that was like I'm gonna do this for the whole year, and it had like a slot for the podcast recording, of course, and it fell apart on the first week. So it's just 2024 for you. It's just not my year or something. I don't know. Like last year was bad enough, but this is like off the charts bad. Anyway, it can't be Wednesday because currently I'm doing Muay Thai on Wednesday, and I don't want to skip that. And I won't do a podcast after Muay Thai training. It's late in the evening, and I'm so fucked after that. That is exhausting. I mean, I did some sports as a kid. Like I was like quite hardcore into football, like the European version where you kick the ball with your foot. I did play some ice hockey, but like wow, Muay Thai, just the warm-up training alone. I mean, I'm also getting old, but Jesus Christ, That is some hardcore shit, but it's a lot. You feel very good afterwards. Anyway, I'm going to do that someday. Of course, we now have a new video. That's also a thing I do. I want to keep up this new video version on YouTube. That's going to be on the YouTube channel. Let me know what you think about it. It should be a lot better quality. I really don't want to stream it because streaming is just more hassle. Then I have to kind of plan so that people know when they can tune in. I don't see the benefit right now. I don't have the time to stream other stuff. So we're doing this for now. Let me know what you think. Yeah, and then I just want to get back on track with everything. I just want to get back on track. I'm going to shut up now. Because otherwise I'm just going to disappoint everybody if it doesn't work. One other thing I wanted to mention. I'm going to play us out with some music as usual. I used to play a lot of music from an artist called Big Girl. I obviously licensed the music I play on the show from Epidemic Sound. And they had like their most popular artist lately. And I've talked about her several times before, in the country and folk like category was an artist called Big Girl, and I really liked her. I thought she was like one of the best artists I heard in Epidemic Sound. So apparently at the beginning of this year, they deleted all her music, so it's not on Epidemic Sound anymore. And they also upload everything to Spotify and other music services. So I listened to her via Spotify, and they've deleted everything. I found her Instagram account where she says that apparently Spotify deleted that. She doesn't go into why. She just says she's very sad. She's now concentrating on new music, but kind of hopes that it gets solved. I've got no idea what went on there, but it's really sad because there were some other songs. I was kind of keeping some of her music in reserve to play us out with because I really liked it, and I'm really sad. So yeah. Rip Big Girl, I guess. That was some good stuff. I'm really sad about that. I'm actually gonna write Epidemic Sound. I want to know what the fuck happened there. Yeah. And that's it for today. The only thing that's left for me is to thank everybody who's stuck with me through all those hard times. And a lot of you have, kept up supporting me, even though I haven't released episodes. And I can't say, I'm very grateful for that. Obviously, with all this shit that's been going on, one of the issues has just been money for me. This is also why I've been working like hell just to try to, kind of finance all this. All my vehicles breaking down and all the other shit. I mean, the tax stuff is a nightmare as well, because it's not like, I knew it was coming, right? It's not a surprise. So the problem is, when I work for somebody, when I write articles for them or whatever, or I do hosting an event or whatever, I bill them. And I put VAT on it, right? And they pay me the VAT, and then I have to pay the VAT to the tax authority, which is how it works in Germany. Now, it used to be that I did that monthly, and then in the pandemic, my income dropped basically to zero for a few months, it was marginal. And then the tax authority went, okay, we're going to put you to yearly payments for the VAT now. And I said, that is really dumb because I can see my income going back up now. It's going to normalize. Can't you just put that off a few months? And they're like, no, we have to do this. And now I'm on a yearly basis. So basically, I now have to pay back the VAT for the last, the 21 and 22. So the taxes that that the tax office just got to. Which I knew were coming, and I knew the amount, but it's like a hefty amount of money, and obviously we have some money saved, but still, it's like, yeah, it's not nice. Anyway, all that just to say I appreciate your financial donations. Well, they're not donations, legally speaking. Your financial contributions to the show. I also appreciate everybody who gives feedback. That's very important. You can go to privatecitizen.press. There you can support the show. There's a link to my Patreon, which is currently the way. If you request my bank account number, I can give that to you, off the record, basically, an email or whatever. But I'm also going to look into, this is one of my goals for the future, as I said, to look into setting up coffee, whatever. Kofi Annan to have another way if people want to support the show. There's also PayPal. You can just PayPal me money. Just write me if you want to do that. Anyway, all without further ado, thanks to all the people who have been supporting this show, even though it hasn't been on the air. But I endeavor to make good on that and get back on the air. So we actually lost any showrunners. We don't have a showrunner right now. So there's your chance. If you ever wanted to become a showrunner, you can. The Private Citizens down a showrunner. We still have a lot of executive producers, though, so thanks to Butterbeans, Jaroslav Lichtblau, Michael Mullen Jensen, who's a new executive producer, as you mentioned, Rizal, Sandman616, and Sir Goltaran. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to my supervising producers, Avis, Bennett Piata, Dave, IKN, Krunkle, and Tobias Weber. Thanks to producers Andrew Davidson, Astral C, Cam, Captain Eckert, Dirk Didi, Fadi Mansour, Florian Pigos, Joe Polzo, Mr. Amish, RJ Tracy, and Robert Forster. And also thanks to the associate producers Jonathan Johanssonen, Kai Sears, Ricky M, Steve Hose, and Vlad. And of course, thanks to Bytemark at bytemark.co.uk, an amazing British cloud hosting company who is providing the service and the bandwidth for the show. Couldn't do that without them. And I also want to thank Gegenwind Photography for the amazing photograph they took of me when I was in Copenhagen. Actually, I think that was when we were also at the concert, which they did an amazing photo shoot with me and some really nice pictures that I really like. And one of them is the one I'm using for the album art of the show. So thanks to them. And that is it. I'm out of here.
Stability loss was due to an impact by a subspace interface pocket.
No, I'm out of here. See you soon. I'm going to play us out with a song called Lazy Days Are Never Done, which I thought was kind of fitting from the message, by Dom Austin and Ronnie Wild. That sounds like they're porn actors. Dom Austin and Ronnie Wild. Whatever. I like this song. See you soon. Aim to misbehave. All right. I hope to be back very soon with another misbehaving episode. Until then, thanks for listening.
Feet, raindrops falling on the street. I can't recall when I last saw the sun. Summer's just a memory, a faded piece of history. No one can remember all the fun. The late night barbecue, zipping on a gin and juice, cruising down. Don't waste my time on yesterday. I never shy away from a good time. Coming on Friday night, I see my friends and feel alright. There ain't no stopping us from having fun. There ain't no cloud in sight. The future